So I guess we are ready to call the meeting to order, and we want to do so by taking a roll call in. Can we start with the folks on the line? Name and, yes, call to order. All right, yeah, sorry. I have summer brain.
Can you see that or no? Those are all.
I can't see this. I can find glasses help.
I'll just read them off. Annie,
Here.
Ariel,
Here.
Lisa,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
Andy,
Here.
oh. Ariel. Sorry about that. The picture was blurry.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, we're good to go. And then here,
Sorry, and then also Dave Perrine's online. David, I've promoted you to panelist a couple of times. I don't know what's happening. You just have to accept it and then you can go over into the panelist side. There we go. Perfect. Okay, that's everyone.
Yep, here, thank you.
thank you, Dave. And then around the table here, Charlie.
Here. Or Mr. Here.
Jen Hofferman. Kim Provo. And Bodwin. Michelle Preston. Okay. So the first order of business is, minutes from SBC meeting. These, what was the date? 6/24?
Correct.
All in, do I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes of 6/24?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Second by Cam. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need to roll call that too?
That would be great.
Okay, can we roll call it?
Cameron, yes?
Michael, yes.
Ariel, yes.
Andy, Tyler,
Yes.
Andy, yes.
Lisa,
I don't vote.
oh, sorry, Lisa. And Ariel,
Yes.
cover online, yep, okay, then around the table, all in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Is that sufficient for in the room?
Yep, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Turning to invoices, do I have a motion to accept the invoices?
It's just our invoice number 2.
So
It's
moved.
for. Yeah, gosh.
Is there a second? Annie moved, second? There's a second by Charlie. Any questions? And I'll ask the perfunctory question because Annie isn't here to do so. Michelle, did you review? Do you have any concerns? Does it meet muster? I reviewed, it's all in order. Okay. So is there any general discussion or questions about the invoice? Being none, can we take the vote? Online, can we go through the roll call?
Cameron, yes?
Michael, yes.
Andy, yes.
Ariel, yes.
Yes.
Yep, everyone in the room, all in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Yes, yes.
Alrighty.
So I think I'm turning it over to Christina to go through the designer RFS submission review.
Yes. As you recall, last time we met with you, we had voted on 3 members from the district to represent the designer selection panel with the MSBA process. That will be Pam Bodwin, Michelle Cresta, and Gordon Brewster. Just wanted to review kind of our process that we went through with receiving proposals. So we received proposals back on July 2nd. We sent over the proposals to the SBC right away once we received them. So you had time to take a look through them, and we're going to talk about them obviously tonight. We've received 3 proposals: JCJ Architecture, LaValle Brunzinger, and Marianne Thompson. We submitted those proposals to the MSBA. When we receive 3 proposals or less, the MSBA has a process where they require us to outline the procurement process that we went through to ensure that we followed all the steps according to Mass General Law for the request for services for designers. So we outlined the process, the schedule, how we advertise in the local newspaper, in the central register and combis. We followed all the dates and the information is provided and outlined by the MSBA. We also let them know that there was a number of people that did attend the walkthrough. And out of the designers that attended the walkthrough, 2 designers did not decide to submit a proposal. We then had to reach out to those designers and ask for a request as far as why they did not submit a proposal. We received those responses and we provided a response to MSBA that they had requested whether or not we wanted to review our RFS again, determine whether any additional information needed to be outlined within the request for services, and then re-advertise and go through the procurement process. We felt as the the project team in the district that we had put as much information as we know at this time within the request for services, that we received 3 proposals. We felt that the proposals that we did receive, that the designers followed the MSBA procurement process and designer selection process and met the criteria necessary. We sent all that information over to the MSBA and they agreed with our review and are allowing us to still keep on track with our schedule. So the first time that we go before the designer selection panel with the MSBA is July 29th. And that is again, just to review proposals with the MSBA and the DSP. So just wanted to outline that process with you as far as what's happened in the last month since we received the proposals from the designers. I also just want to say tonight for our review that as we're going through kind of what the 3 DSP members and the project team reviewed of the proposals, meaning Gordon, Pam, and Michelle, that the MSBA wants us to be very transparent as we talk and review through proposals. They do not want us to rank proposals. They do not want us to come back with a 3-2-1 at this point. They want us to be very open to the designer selection process, understand that the MSBA has a way of going through the proposals with the 3 members. And so I just want to make sure as we're talking through this tonight, this is kind of a report out and kind of, what we saw as a group of the proposals received, and just want to make sure that I make that clear when we're talking through them. So just getting into that, I think that I would like to turn it over to Gordon, Pam, and Michelle, if you guys just want to give kind of an overview of our discussion that we had last week where we talked through the proposals received.
Or do you want to go for it?
But discussing what I found
You want,
or what we
I
discussed.
think you want whatever your consensus was.
So the consensus, there was a consensus, frankly, there was no doubt about it. We felt there was, without ranking them, there's no way you can discuss it without ranking them. So if I may, I felt the Mary Ann Thompson proposal was very aspirational. Their experience is very limited, very limited. As a matter of fact, it's pretty much mostly with private schools and but they had no school experience with MSBA. They had no extensive school experience. And frankly, I felt the proposal was a bit weak as far as the team they proposed and their approach to the project. So that would be them. I would believe they'd be a good firm for the right project, but they're not good for us. The second one was La Valley. Give me the last name, Brenzinger.
Yeah.
I thought this was good. I hadn't heard of them before, but reading their proposal, they got extensive experience. Their team was very, very strong. I will discuss a bit of the weaknesses later. And I was particularly impressed with their representative projects that they proposed and then approach to our project. So they really did encapsulated their full body of work in one document. I thought it was very strong. Where I did feel was a little bit of weakness is on the team proposed, particularly the project architect has only got 7 years experience. And it's all with La Valley. Not a bad thing, but I felt with the project where we have a bit of complexity with ours, that a bit more experience would be beneficial to us. And also they proposed a design project manager and a feasibility study project manager, 2 different roles. And for me, my perspective and in my past experience, it's better to meld them into a single oversight for the whole project. However, good firm. I didn't like them. I tabbed the hell out of them. I thought they were actually pretty good. The last one was JCJ. We have JCJ experience. And if I were to rank them, I thought they were the strongest team. They proposed their principal in charge, who more often than not, generally doesn't get that much involved in the project. We have had experience with him on our previous project over at Memorial School, and he was involved, he was engaged, he did have oversight. Their project manager was strong, a lot of experience, and Dustin, who was the project architect for us, right, Pam? He was the project architect towards the end, I think. He was very strong, he's very well liked in the team. The project representation is strong, their MSBA experience is strong, and they did the same thing. They took a shot at what our school might be for the 3 different proposals we had. So I felt the JCJ was the strongest of the 3, and I believe that was the consensus that we all arrived at, including everybody.
Just real quick, Michael has his hand up. Mike, do you want to go ahead?
You guys kind of jumped. I was more just curious about what feedback you got on firms who decided not to submit proposals, and if there was particular feedback. But I don't want to derail what you guys are working on here to answer that question. So why don't we just keep going with your assessment of the proposals?
Yeah, Michelle, anything you need to add?
I think Gordon captured I think we all came in with very similar pros and cons for each of the firms and similar outlook as to who would serve us best. I would share that we had some pretty strong, good discussion around Bresinger's proposals. I think they were interesting.
Yeah.
In terms of the ideas that they brought to the table, but ultimately, one of the things that I was looking at was experience with MSBA and regional districts in particular. Because aside from the architecture component, the designer does a huge lift in terms of making the project accessible to the community, soliciting community input, and then being able to respond effectively to what they're getting as inputs. And I do think that JCJ exhibited a lot of strength in being able to take inputs from a very large and skilled committee and do so in a really professional way that captured all of the different points of view that was coming in. So I think their demonstrated ability to get us through the regional process and help us enlist the support of the community to get the project off the ground was something that we didn't see experience in the other 2 firms. That was a big piece, I think, of our discussion on that day, and I think there was consensus again about where we were. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. I think so. Captured, let's see.
And then, Mike, just to answer your question, so one of the firm's response to me was that they had their eye on this project and another project, and they decided that the other project that was coming through kind of the MSB pipeline in the next few months or so, more aligned with their project team and availability. And so they decided to go after the other project than this project. And then the second response I had received was from a smaller design firm who had a lot of experience in the private world, but not any experience in the public world. And so they had felt that based off of the designers that had applied to like the walkthrough and made interest in downloading the request for services, that they decided not to go after the project.
Thank you.
Annie, did you have some questions?
Of course I do. So just upfront, I just wondered if you could provide some definitions of terms that were used that are not familiar to me. One of them is living building challenge and mass timber.
Yeah, so Living Building Challenge, it's a green building certification program where they aim to create buildings that are truly regenerative and have a positive impact on the environment and human well-being. So that's what Living Building Challenge means.
Is that a state program or?
I am not aware if that is a state program, because I'm used to either LEED or mass chips
Mhm.
as far as the sustainable programs that are typical to the MSBA process. I do not know the answer to that, but I can figure out that
I
information.
think it's aspirational.
You think it's aspirational? Okay.
Plus, it's something that they sign on to as well. But remember, these sort of aspirational, sustainable green initiatives cost a ton of.
I was just gonna say.
So.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Costs are a big concern. Don't get caught up in them selling you
Yeah,
big sustainability push, because when you get the price tag, you say, well, thanks, but no thanks.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that has the same kind of answer to the mass timber. It's basically engineered wood that's very strong structural wood that people are trying to use instead of steel on projects. And it brings a sustainable aspect to the project where you get certain points with LEED or mass chips using mass timber. But again, there's a price tag that comes with it.
Okay. And then the other term that was there was SDVOBC. What is that?
SD what?
SDVOBC, and I think it has to do with uh diversity within the project team, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's service disabled, veteran owned small business is my understanding.
Well, that just trips off the tongue, huh?
Another. It's bad now, and
Yeah,
you can't take up with. Makes designers even further.
Okay, so then I guess I want to dig into each one of these because here's my concern. You know, we chose Doran Whittier because we had worked with you before and but a lot of us had not worked with you before. So I want to make sure that we're vetting and talking thoroughly about each proposed firm so that we're giving everybody a fair chance. So can we start that conversation with Mary Ann Thompson? Because I have some thoughts.
yeah, go ahead.
So again, I don't, you know, I don't know architecture. I read this and I thought that the focus was more about sustainability design than about student learning. She didn't seem to mention any public or MSBA projects. And I was wondering if she was big enough. The highlighted projects that she put forward were from 2008, 2018, and 2019. So nothing really new. Didn't really talk about design meeting educational needs of students and was more about design than functionality. I mean, and again, this is just my impression. You know, Essex prioritizes kind of practicality and functionality over form, and I just didn't feel like this was student learning forward. I felt it was more design forward. There was no mention of the process or the politics of this, and no mention of chapter 149 or CM at risk. So I wondered what other folks got out of this. I just didn't think this was really a contender.
It's already summarized it.
Yeah, Andy, I
think-
agree with
I
you. What you just said is exactly what we talked
Right.
about when we summarized it.
Yeah.
Same exact statement. I didn't get into the weaknesses as much as you just did. But if I look at my notes over here, I'm seeing private schools, no MSBA experience,
They've never done an MSBA project.
aspirational, so
And she's a wonderful designer and has done some incredibly beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
But they tend to be small, they tend to be wood. She did this,
Yeah.
she used to be married to Charlie Rose and it was Thompson and Rose. And they did a beautiful art center in Florida, there's these lovely pavilions, and it's great. It just isn't what we're looking for.
I think even in the diagram, her attempt at the site, it was very expensive, high design.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
that's
sort
how
of even
they-
the diagrams were.
That's gonna be their perspective in the front,
Yeah.
you know, and I hesitate, I cringe to say, oh, just because you haven't done it before, it doesn't mean you can't do it. But the fact of the matter, there's almost nothing, maybe federal work, but there's almost nothing more prescriptive in the MSBA process.
Yeah.
And if you've never done it before, the learning curve is so steep.
Right.
It's so steep, and I don't know that we want the designer for our project to be struggling to understand the PDP and the PSR and the schematic design and the number of estimates and then it probably is not very productive.
Yeah, I think that this is their chance to try and push in the door, that they're trying to get in the MSBA
And
door.
that's what you're gonna hear from the designer selection panel.
Right.
They're all the MSBA people who go, oh, this is great. It's an opportunity for fresh blood. Don't you love this? Isn't this terrific? And you need to say, if it's your view,
Right,
you need to stay strong and say, no, we're not taking that risk. Sorry,
yeah,
that's not what we're interested in.
yeah, I mean, they've done a lot of, I mean, not a lot, but they've done Connecticut schoolwork, right? And so that's not MSBA, that's not, you know, Massachusetts. They haven't done 149A to Annie's point. I think that they are, again, to Charlie's point, trying to push their way into the door, but I personally feel strongly the same way Charlie just said it, as far as having to teach someone the MSBA process on a very tight schedule anyways, it's going to take a lot of work. And so, I don't see where anyone on their team would have that information or would be able to help us through that
I
process.
also just want to remind everybody that the reality is, before we spend hours going through these in great detail, the reality is it's, well, I think, a 99% chance you're going to interview all three anyway. So this shortlisting, there's no shortlisting process here. There's three firms. They're going to say, oh, just go ahead and interview them all. That's
You could make a
probably-
strong, you could
Yeah,
make
I
a
mean, it's
strong,
conceivable if you put up enough of an argument and they're
Right.
persuaded, they may direct select. They almost never direct select.
that's,
I don't even think the proposal was written for an MSBA program, project. It was just,
I think they should be the third choice.
the one thing that I will say that I was disappointed on was the other two designers addressed the three enrollments. They did not address all three. They only addressed the first two. And so I was kind of hoping to see that, but it wasn't included within their proposal.
Right.
So,
They're also,
It is-
I think their approach they took on the two that they attempted to do was. I don't know, it was a nice drawing, it wasn't well thought through, not that we expected, not that,
Sure.
God knows I've tried to do that too, when we wrote proposals. Show that you know the project before you know the project, but these were just really.
Well, I think your point about the expensiveness, so you just look at one of them with all these pots, and I'm thinking, well, that's a
Yeah.
whole lot of exterior wall.
Yeah.
We're building a lot of envelope in that one.
Yeah.
Didn't we just tear down the school in Manchester that had that same
Yeah,
thing?
that was exactly my thought.
So anyway,
Okay, by the way, just not for nothing, I think we selected the top two for interview, whether we have to interview with thirds or not. But we felt there wasn't enough difference to say distinctly one is better than the other.
we can make that argument, and then
Both
you
are
can say,
good.
we'd love to interview two.
Yeah.
See what they say.
Yeah,
and it's so important that the three of you are aligned when you go to the DSP and that you speak the same kind of, you
We
know,
have to
that,
ask each of you if
Yeah.
you need to say the same thing.
yeah.
yeah, I think we're,
They want to make sure that everyone is aligned from the
Yeah.
district itself. So that's very important.
so I think with the three of us and with you as well, too, we'll have
Yeah.
a chat maybe another day this week and just say it, or maybe even as late as Monday, just to get our ducks in the row, not that they're not. but further get them ducks. They're tight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Annie, you have other comments?
I do, but I'm also interested in like, the folks who are new to this committee. I really liked the LBA proposal. I really think they kind of got it. They know where we're coming from. And I am interested in the team concerns that you have, Gordon. And I wanted also for us to kind of reiterate all of the things that JCJ had to deal with, because I think we often just like, oh yeah, we worked with them, they were great, but we need to kind of highlight for other folks that were not here, like what was the challenge that JCJ had to face when we were looking at Memorial School. And, the community outreach, I thought they were excellent with that. It was a phased construction project and it was a pain in the neck. There were neighborhood concerns, which I think they were very good dealing with, and they were very responsive. They were remember we had to consider the senior center in that project, and then we ended up bumping it, Manchester decided they didn't want to fund it. There was considerable site challenges. We had to bring Essex on board, and that was the challenge.
Yep.
COVID, yeah.
And safety was a big concern, and one of the things that we really liked about them is that they had done the rebuilding of the Newtown School in Connecticut. And they were very mindful of just concerns that people had about safety. So I just want to kind of recall, what were the challenges that they were really good at meeting, and then also kind of like what LBA brought in there. I just want to make sure that everyone's getting a full hearing so that you have some meat when you go talk. But I really am interested also in what the folks who are new to this are thinking. And I'll shut up.
Well, I have a question here. Is MSBA gonna expect us to evaluate on the merits of these pieces of paper we have in front of us, the proposals? Or can we expound upon our past experience?
Well, I mean, of course, your past experience has something to do with it. They're gonna ask you, like, we know that you've worked with one of these firms before. How was your experience working with them on the previous project you had? And I think that to Charlie's point, they're most likely going to want to interview all three firms. Unless you have a very strong case that says two are very strong and one's not so strong and we don't feel that we should go to interview for them. But again, we can further talk about that as a group here if you feel like that's the need or want moving forward. But I really like going to the interview stage because you see how they are with each other, interacting as a team, and how they interact with us. And I think that's really where you learn people's personalities the best, is at the interview stage. So, the proposal read is really for the designer selection panel to say who deserves to go to the interview at the next step, right?
But they're using these documents to make that decision, correct?
They're gonna go, the first meeting we have with them is them reviewing already the proposals and them basically doing what we're doing here, saying the highlights of what they really liked, what they thought was interesting, the design, the team, and then they'll talk about maybe some challenges that they see in the proposals as well. So it's very similar to what we're going through right now.
Okay, so it's up to us then to put a little color to the picture.
100%.
Yeah, and
JC
I would
Lloyd's
not be
concerned.
shy saying we really liked our experience with JCJ. That's totally appropriate. It happens all the time. And it's helpful if that's the ultimate direction that he wants to go in. And I also think it's perfectly appropriate to say we think you should interview two, not three, and they'll decide whether to want to include Mary.
There's so many factors, like I said, with the designer selection panel. You never know what happened at the meeting before, who's lined up for the meeting afterwards. They look at it like who has work that's currently within the MSBA world. I mean, that doesn't mean that anything that's private is not on their radar, but still, they like to pass along the work. And so that's kind of like how they look at the pool of designers that work with them. They're very strategic.
And they're desperate to always try to bring in new people, so that's why you have to sort of stay a little bit strong on that point. But we have certainly seen firms get multiple projects in a row, so it is possible, it's just you have to argue very strenuously for it.
I guess I can speak from the perspective of being called for references on JCG and what I am able to say that from beginning to end and even post-project, they have been, their support and follow-up has been very good. And we've had I think every building has issues when you're settling in and things that pop up, and they are right there at the ready to come and help the facilities team whenever there's a question or concern either about mechanics or there's like a smell that we're trying to identify. So they've been good in the post. I think they were extremely strong in the lead into the project and in processing the inputs. Again, I had already said that. But even if you are looking strictly at the proposal, they're able to, I like that they took the time to speak to and share their knowledge of the differentiation between the two communities and how a project in Essex is going to have to be responsive to the character and concerns of the Essex school community and not just a replica. If MSBA is asking another why, we are seriously considering as part of the feasibility study, whether or not the memorial school could be a potential site for expansion, and they know that site inside and out. They have the established relationships with the boards in Manchester, because if we were to pursue that, there's gonna be incredible level of environmental planning and work that's gonna need to go into it. So I think they have developed very positive relationships with the boards. We see how they've acted and interacted in that way. I think we can make the mental leap to say they would do so in this capacity as well. I think they understand the intricacies of the project. I think that is a big plus for them going in. I think what we talked about is if MSBA does exercise its will and we have to go with LBA, we couldn't necessarily identify anything that would be of concern other than the lack of experience in a regional project.
Well, I think that's real, but can I ask a question about them that maybe I'm wrong about? But I thought an awful lot of their staff for this project came from other firms.
That's true.
And I did
Yeah,
not
right.
actually see that they have done many MSBA projects lately. All these MSBA projects you're talking about, oh, they listed all these MSBA projects, or other firms.
Correct.
So the Valley themselves have done almost no MSBA work, and their staff comes from other firms. So you gotta read between the lines to understand that in fact, the reality is, as a team together and under the auspices of La Valley, they've done very little.
I think it's maybe one as
One-
a team together
one-
or the Holly.
One MSBA project.
Yeah.
So before we all think they've done a ton of MSBA projects,
Right.
I don't think they have.
No, you're right, Charlie.
I think that the reality is these people they've been trying to pluck people from other firms to give them, I mean, I think it's from New Hampshire. And they decided a while ago to make a push to try to kind of be an MSBA firm. And the only way they tried to do that was hire MSBA architects from other firms. And the guy who started that whole thing, I think, came from, Michael Rosenfeld's office, because he suddenly stopped one
Yeah.
day. He came back from vacation and say, I'm closing shop. And so some of those people, I think, moved over because they needed a place to work.
That's what happens when we got one of our references.
Yeah, I was confused by when I was reaching out the references, he was not referring to that company. And they said after the Quinn Middle School project, which they reference, that firm closed, and then Lee Sherwood and David Harris joined
Right.
the volume.
Right. So I would be careful to say, oh, they have tons of MSBA projects like they have one.
No, I'm not saying they have tons of MSBA, but they have extensive school experience.
Not MSBA.
Not MSBA, but school experience is similar to ours. And there are examples of the schools they put in. Actually, the complexity in some of the program elements are very similar to what we're attending here. So it's not that they're inexperienced. I do agree with you about the staff, the staffing and their experience with, I can find it here, but I noticed that too. I highlighted every one of the staff members that had experience. And just took a look at how long have they been there and how many years do they have under there. Not a bad thing, people change all the time, but it did seem that every one of their staff members had been somewhere a long time and with them a short time. Is that bad? That mean they're not proven?
Well, it means that team is not proven to do MSBA work particularly
Yeah.
together, is what it means, and whatever that's worth. But I just, I would caution against assuming they have a lot of work. That's on the resume.
So the other thing I mentioned before, that the experience, their PA had experience, had 7 years experience. And I looked at the other projects he was on, he has not been the PA on those projects, so I don't want to be derogatory or insulting to them, but the fact is, this isn't a learning experience, this is gonna be a complex, get your hands dirty and figure out what we need to do with that project.
Right.
And I don't think he would be the appropriate leader of the design of it.
I had a question about JCJ. So I know that I've heard a lot of positive things about working with them. On the parent side of, both of my daughters were in elementary school in Manchester when that whole thing started and through the construction. And I thought that went really well. I attended all of the meetings and I thought their communication and presentations were good. yeah, was there sort of generally good feelings about, primarily I'm thinking of their MEP engineers, because I feel like a lot of change orders come in construction from those disciplines. Do we have positive feelings about them, and are they the same firm that they're proposing now?
Like our signals, good Susan.
I guess this is GG.
It was GGD,
Yeah.
who was the mechanical engineer. I've used them on many projects. I thought they were a great team.
That's
They
like,
were very responsive.
So.
They,
JC.
again, had a very large challenge with that project just because it was a phase occupied school project, as well as we went through COVID during construction. So I had no problem working with you.
This is.
And they're a great consultant that I've worked with in the past.
sounds good. I saw a bunch of other consultants, some of those were more minor ones, like acoustic specification.
Yeah. I'm looking.
A couple of other ones I recognized, and there was no one in any of the three proposals that I was sort of gave pause, except for one on LBA's, the geotech that they have. I've worked with before and found to be pretty unresponsive.
Who was a geotech?
It was Lahoff.
Wow.
Uh-huh, okay.
I agree. They're difficult to work with.
Yeah, but
And
that
they
was,
will call, they will charge you extra over and over again.
yeah. But everybody, like the other consultants that I did recognize, and I would say it wasn't a lot, it was maybe 25% of them. All of them, I thought, I was like, oh, I know them, they're good.
We can always discuss consultants with the designers.
I would say what I observed too, because I'm not a technical expert in any of things, but I've observed a very good working relationship between all of the three. So
Yeah.
architect to construction team, architect to project management and so all three entities worked well with the school. I felt that they were very responsive. There were a lot of things that kept coming up around the environmental needs on the site, and I thought all of the parties were extremely flexible, incredibly professional, and all of the changes that came by way of town votes.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of stipulations placed on things, there were a lot of asks for additional reporting.
Yeah, we had 40-page order conditions on the memorial project, so.
So none of that ever seemed to cause tension or to slow down the project. I think everything just kept moving on time, on schedule, and they were incredibly responsive to anything that came up.
So that would be a credit.
Just real quick, Mike, do you want to say something? You're put your hand up, I apologize.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, I've worked with Lavalley extensively in the past and different teams. So, and not on a school project, it was ambulatory care, multiple, and they did a fantastic job historically. Different teams, different sector. So, my observation of kind of looking through the proposals is they were pretty comparable, right? The differentiating factor for JCJ was the history with the district and, kind of a successful outcome at that point. So, it's hard to differentiate. I think the proof will be in the pudding in the interview process, right? When you challenge them specifically with Laval around some of their MSBA experience, and can they convince you that their depth of experience is deep enough to distinguish or put them on parallel with JCJ. The question that I had for history for the group was, one thing that I noted was the geographic, being from Hartford, Connecticut, and for JCJ, and most of their folks are down there. Was that an issue in the design process and kind of community engagement, or were they fully present and it wasn't an issue bringing them up this way?
So they have a Boston office as well, and they had a PM out of the Boston office that was regularly at every meeting that we had. And then from their Connecticut office, yes, their project architect and construction team were present at every single meeting. So them coming from Connecticut was also a concern of ours when we first received their proposals 8 years ago. But they proved that being from Connecticut was not going to be an issue for us. So that was nice to see.
I think they came back on their own time for the open houses, or in the, she's not with them anymore, brother-in-law,
Yeah,
so.
Is it Michael, did you ask that question?
yes.
So honestly, I I don't recall any time. We spent a lot of time with them. We had our own little design committee within the larger committee. We spent time at their Boston office working with them, kind of a like right down to a workshop type thoughts. I thought it was pretty seamless all the way through it. And the execution of the project, the construction document preparation, the bid process, and the CA process was pretty seamless as well. There was, I'll let you speak to that in more detail, but that seemed to go very well, regardless of geographical location of the main office.
I would say the one frustration I recall was whatever software they were using to do some of their initial schematic designs.
What do you mean, the graphic representation?
Yeah, some people were,
Yes,
they worked in offices with different software products and it wasn't
yes.
safe, and that was.
I
It
think
was
that
wish
was
that they
probably
could be more
me and the
strict.
vocal one at the time, because we were. At the time, I worked at SMMA and I saw what's prepared for presentation for whatever we're presenting at all phases. And I felt it was, and I think others felt it was a little bit lacking in what we were seeing in order for us to make decisions on the graphic, but it looks like how it feels, and they upped their game. They upped their game to kind of improve on that end of it, so we got a little better product in the end. Good point, yeah, I'm glad about
I
that.
do remember them.
Anyone else have anything? They want to say about the proposals or?
Yeah, I have a couple things to add. This is Ariel. Interestingly, my company, CVT Architects here in Boston, we attended, or I would say the academic group here at CVT, I'm on the life science side, but they attended the walkthrough and I was excited that we might jump in there, but they decided to pull out. And I think part of it was, I think they felt that JCJ was going to get it. And, you know, we do a lot of private schools. And so I think sort of similarly, they didn't feel like they really had a shot because it's so expensive really to put a proposal through and follow it through. But anyways, I think I wouldn't discount Marianne Thompson. I think just because she doesn't have a lot of MSBA experience, I think, you know, in the end, it maybe that's the deciding factor. But I think, you know, we have three. Why don't we give each a fair shot, interview them, and sort of approach it with an open mind? I think, you know, as an architect, I can say she's incredibly respected in the field. She's an amazing designer. I think she's done some beautiful work. You know, if there's a little bit of training there that we have to do, I think I wouldn't be opposed to that. But I think, you know, let's just keep an open mind and I think evaluate these based on their merits. I think they're each going to have their strengths and weaknesses, obviously. So my vote would be to give Marianne Thompson's office a fair shake at it, good faith sort of shake. And same thing with LaValle Singer. I'm not as familiar with them, but JCJ I am familiar with, but that's my 2 cents.
Anyone else have anything?
Good luck. Knock 'em dead.
So when you go to talk about it in at the first meeting, if you really had to say, let's get all three, they would just say, great. I got it. I mean,
It's really hard to hear you. We're like skipping every other word.
Speaking Russian.
I am actually.
I'll speak Russian.
You wanna put it in the chat, Annie?
No, I took can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I took my headphones off because I was eating. So if you go in there and just say, we're good with meeting all three, then it's still kind of an open game, or I guess I'm just wondering, what are you gonna do now that you've had feedback from the team?
If I might offer, I don't think it's worth interviewing all three. There was clearly, I appreciate Charlie and Michael's opinion. I think someone else also about the quality of the work that she does in her own field and in the right field. I don't think it's appropriate here and I would be, I'll go with the group, but I would be against interviewing her. I just don't see the value in it. There would be no way that we would select her and I would be very vocally against it because of all the reasons expressed here.
I guess I'd love to hear from the architects, the designers about. So I've only done a project, I've only done school-based projects, so I see that there's somebody on the design team that's all about the design, so. Pulling inputs from us to kind of come up with what the building would look like. But then there's so much more of it that really has nothing to do with the design of the building and everything to do with navigating the political process.
Yeah.
Of getting the building up and off the ground and through the hoops of a two-town budget override while working within the bounds of MSBA and all of particular guidelines. And then the project management of making the design come to fruition and the collaboration with the construction team and the project manager team. So for people in the field, talk to us a little bit about how we should be looking at these proposals beyond just, like, I like LaValley's schematics. I thought the ideas were really creative.
I did too.
From when I'm coming to this, I'm thinking about those other two pieces as much as I'm thinking about the process for coming up with, what it needs to look like and how it can respond to our needs. So how should we prioritize all of those pieces of this?
Actually, Ben, I think you did a good job, just prioritizing everything you said and everything we spoke about, each one of the proposals. Strength of leadership, the strength of project management, continuity of management through the community relationship, and the design of the building. Dare I put that at the end, that the design of the building are all something that you've had particularly good experience with this particular designer, JCJ. Not to diminish the quality of the other proposals, but you know what you're gonna get with JCJ. We have a good rapport with them, a good working relationship with them, all that. It's the strength of why that one. The other two, I would love to hear about LaValley and projects they've done myself. I don't know them other than the name that they're good proposal about them, very good. Very good.
I just don't want to devalue the importance of design for the other two pieces that I'm really focused on.
This project is not gonna be a high design project.
Well
This
said.
project, I'm sorry, but this project is gonna be about the things you already talked about. It's beginning through town meetings. It's gonna be about obtaining costs. It's gonna be about the complexities of phasing and logistics. It's gonna be about, can we do a renovation addition and keep the kids safe and the faculty working? Which JCJ certainly exhibited you could do in Manchester, which was incredibly complex. It's just not gonna be some statement building. So again, I said it at the very beginning, I have enormous respect for Marianne Thompson's work. It's beautiful. But this is not a venue for her. It just isn't. I mean, and she frankly don't really have much experience, I don't think, in Massachusetts. The other thing is Massachusetts public bid situation is so dramatically different than anywhere else, including Connecticut or anywhere else. And it's dramatically different. And understanding how to navigate that, I think, was a technical thing is important. So I just don't think that this is
I think there's
the kind of a design statement project.
Well, I think, so I did some public work way back when I used to work in Boston and now do only private work up here on the North Shore. And it is a different animal when sort of preparing the documents for the bid. So just the way that every tiny piece has to be called out in terms of who's doing what, the sort of level of ownership of all of the different pieces of the design and the way that you have to document them so that they can be bid completely and not open us up to change orders is a lot more complex with a public project. And so I think the concern, if I'm sort of reading between the lines too, is that if somebody is on a learning curve with that and they make a mistake so that they own, they think that they own the full painting scope in their drawings, but in actual fact, they hadn't called out enough notes about all the prep. Suddenly, do we open ourselves up for a change order, just as an example? And so I think that's where the liability to us comes in, is if somebody is learning and makes mistakes, those mistakes come out in change orders. If they don't own that
Yeah, I
process,
mean,
and so I don't think it's in the design necessarily,
Right.
and I hope we can make something beautiful that is
I
functional.
mean, JCJ design. I'm not sure, I don't know how the Valley's design work is, but JCJ
Actually, I like
design work.
I like the Valley's design on there.
I think they're schematic, I'm impressed by their photos.
Yeah, but I think,
I do have.
I think probably it should be the lowest design, I hate to say that, so I'm all about design, but I think it's our lowest, I think it's our lowest priority of this, in terms of what we select.
I mean, I look at it from, yes, a certain lens, because we're gonna have to be working with them for the next 8 years. That's a lot of time, and I think the project team, for me specifically, is very important as well. And MSB experience.
8 years.
Still working on closeout from a wall right now.
As we are.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I
Yeah, I-
could chime,
Go ahead.
can I chime in? Yeah, sorry. Hi, this is Andy. So I guess, part of me, doesn't want to give up on a Marianne Thompson. I'd love to see what what her firm comes up with, but I do come back, as others have said, to the practicality of needing to navigate the MSBA, design web, complying with all their kind of programmatic, going through all those hoops, basically. So I do, I think that is a critical piece of it. And so, and ultimately, no matter what we might feel might be the opportunity for what we would get with a Marianne Thompson, there is a budget that's going to, be a major factor for what gets done. So I think, being able to tick all those boxes off is just a really important thing. I oftentimes what you, and Charlie and others can speak to this, but oftentimes what you see with a firm that's maybe trying to break into doing work with the MSBA is that they'll partner with another firm that can, kind of help bolster that part of the game. So, with LaValle, I think it's just important to understand whether they're going to be able to, navigate the MSBA process.
Yeah, I mean, the PSR and PDP phases are, I think one of the things that's underappreciated by committees is the sheer volume of paperwork and forms and stuff that has to be collated and created and written and organized by project team.
Yeah.
The architect does a lot of it, the OPM does some of it, but these books are, 500 pages long, full of stuff, and they're full of form things, and and if you've never done that before, it's really daunting, and would be really daunting. And I think having someone who's done it before is helpful. And that's just these early phases,
It's a very prescribed process.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta follow, check all the boxes,
Yeah. All right.
Any questions?
Anyone else have any questions online?
I have a question. So as much as they appreciate hearing that your experience in working with firms before, does that ever flip the table a little bit, wanting them to push you to work with someone?
Not if it was a great experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've just, we'll talk about the wanting to diversify and spread out the work.
Yeah, and I think that in a different scenario, if there were two very strong firms with MSB experience that have a lot of elementary school experience, that have a lot of MSB, like all of those factors, I think they might be like, well, maybe you should try someone different. You know what I mean? And I think that every scenario is so different when it comes to the designer selection account, so. But I think here, just because JCJ, number one, we've worked with them. Number two, they have a lot of MSB experience. Number three, they have been watching this project for a long time because they know that it was coming. I think that their project team is strong. And those are all really great factors to support why working with them again.
I would say two, we have a good relationship with MSBA, you have a good relationship with MSBA. And I think when we put in for the initial project, it was almost put in as a bundle. And they knew and were expecting us to come back with Essex as the final piece of the rebuilding plan. So I don't know that they would be surprised that JCJ is put in for the project, and that based on our past work, that it would make sense that they would rise to the top. We were successful in beating, I can never remember the name of the firm, but there was a really cool new firm that was doing a lot of charter work.
Studio G.
And they pushed them hard last time, but with similar arguments that we're bringing here about the kind of the complexity of our project being both a two-town regional, phasing, the site limitations, the scope of our feasibility. I think they were, at least the group at that time was open to understanding why we were looking for a firm that had extensive experience and some gravitas. The fact that the what do you call Jim, the principal at the time was willing to be an active member in the initial phases of the project, I think played well in our argument in their bid last time and their bid this time.
So again, the meeting is on July 29th. It's a public meeting. So if anyone wants to join, you're more than welcome to sign on to MSB's website and log in that way. And watch the whole process. As soon as the meeting is over, we'll make sure to send out a report out to the full building committee, letting everyone know what's next for interviews and who we're going to be interviewing.
So I got an email saying I needed to be confirmed that I'm coming to this meeting. I was identifying, and I did confirm, and she wrote back something and saying, okay, we got you're in.
Okay,
What about is there an actual invite with the address?
you'll get an email from Claire. Is it Claire? Yes, Claire. Or I can't remember her name. Anyways, you'll get an email from one of the MSP members where it says you need to register, click this link to register, put in your information,
Got it,
and then
yes.
Zoom will send you their own Zoom link.
Okay.
And that's your panelist link to be able to join.
They send it late, they'll send it like Monday night.
They send it like less than 48 hours before.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
we got the email and do the acknowledgement form.
Just the
So-
acknowledgement form is what you needed to respond
I
to.
did get acknowledgement form.
Yeah,
I
perfect, no
got it ready to get there, else I forget, so
Yeah,
I did it right away.
perfect.
Yeah, they'll probably send something out either Friday.
Yeah.
So are we looking for a consensus from the building committee today as to anything? Are we looking for whether we go for 2 or whether we go for 3 or do we have to state that at the
They
meeting?
said we can't vote on anything.
You can't vote on anything right now. I think that generally,
Just go forward.
yeah,
Based on the.
I'm certainly sure we're not violating something if somebody had a strong opinion that we don't.
Well, you can't rank
no.
and you can't, so.
This is just a
It's
conversation.
just a discussion. Yeah.
Had an hour-long conversation, huh?
There you go.
And we'll have the same conversation with the group on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's really good at it, but then.
We will.
Okay. So good to move forward. Next item. Okay.
Yes.
Upcoming meetings, just reminding everyone again, the first meeting with the DSPs on July 29th. We are first on the agenda because they do proposal reviews at the beginning of the DSP process. So we will be on right at 8:30. And then our second meeting where we have interviews that are conducted. The meeting starts at 8:30, but we typically won't be on until an hour and a half, 2 hours into the meeting itself. They'll let us know what time they want us to have us logged on for the August 12th meeting. Just so you're aware, because they do, again, proposals first, then interview second on their agenda.
I have to be up and dressed by 8:30 or no?
That's why Zoom's nice, so that way it's just right here, right? And then our next SBC meeting is on August 26th. That will be our first meeting with a designer on board. And then from there, we have our meeting in September on the 23rd. We've identified that we'd like to have a community meeting sometime in October. We'll set that date once the designer's on board. We've gone through the schedule with them, an early feasibility study phase schedule, and we'll let everyone know potential dates to see if that works for everyone. And any other topics anyone wanted to maybe talk about tonight? No? Going once, going twice? Yeah. And then public comment, I do not see anyone online as a member of the public. So I think we're good there.
I have a motion to adjourn. This is everybody's favorite motion to make. A second.
Sure.
So, all in favor, can we roll call out from online?
Cameron, yes.
Mike, yes.
Andy, yes.
Heather, yes.
Ariel, yes.
Dave, yes.
And all in favor here?
I-
Yep, you met, that's where you're ready to adjourn. Meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.